have a story for you. This is a story that comes from the other side of the world. It comes from Russia. I hope you like it. Masha was a little girl who lived with her mother and father near the woods. And every summer, all of the children in the village would go out into the woods to pick blueberries. Oh, and Masha always wanted to go too, but her mother and father said, no, 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 you are too young. Until finally one year, when all of the children were going out into the woods to pick berries, and Masha wanted to go again, her mother said, well, you are getting to be a big girl, Masha. You stay with your friends. And her father said, you be careful. There are bears in the woods. And Masha picked up her mother and father's great big straw basket. It was almost as big as she was. And she took it into the woods with her so that she would have something to put those berries in. And they walked into the woods quite a distance until they came to a place where there's some very tall blueberry bushes. Masha put down her basket and she began to pick. And you can pretend to pick blueberries with Masha. She picked from the top of the blueberry bush and put the berries into her basket. Go ahead, reach up. Oh, she reached all around the bush, both sides. She reached to the very bottom of the bush to get those blueberries. And she even went inside the blueberry bush to get the berries that were growing inside. She picked and picked and picked and picked and picked and picked. Masha picked so many blueberries. Oh, she picked until there wasn't a single blueberry left on that bush. She had them all. And then she looked around for her friends and, uh-oh. Her friends were gone. Oh, they were nowhere. But there was a path. And she picked up her basket and she started walking along that path, hoping that she was going in the right direction. But she wasn't. Masha went even further into the woods. And she walked along until she came to a little house. And she knocked on the door. There was no answer. She knocked again. There was still no answer. And so Masha did what I know that you would never do. Masha opened the door and she went inside that house. No sooner had she closed the door and put her basket down than the owner of the house returned. And it was a great big bear. He walked over to Masha and said, "What's your name?" "My name is Masha." "That's a nice name," the bear said. "You can stay in my house, as meek as a mouse. And you can do my cooking and my cleaning too. Do not try to run away, because I will catch you and eat you." What could Masha do? She had to stay with that bear and do his cooking and his cleaning too. And she knew that her mother and father would be so worried about her. And indeed they were. They went out into the woods and called her and called her. The entire village went out into the woods looking for Masha. "Masha!" they called, "Masha!" And then her mother just sat and cried and cried. And her father just sat and stared straight ahead, didn't speak at all. Masha knew she had to get away from that bear. She said, Mr. Bear, let me just run home and tell my mother and father that I'm all right. Oh, no, he said. If you go home, you won't come back here. And he was right. She had to think of something else. Oh, Mr. Bear, I will cook some muffins and put them in my basket, my mother and father's basket. And when you take that basket to their house, they'll see the muffins and they will know that I'm all right. Would you please do that? I'll do that for you, yes. Oh, thank you, Bear. And you can go outside and smoke your pipe while I'm making the muffins. And then I'll put the muffins in the basket and you can carry the basket to my mother and father's house. But don't eat a single muffin. Please promise me you won't eat a single muffin. All right, I promise. Good, good. And Mr. Bear, I'm going to go, after I finish cooking the muffins, I'm going to go sit up high in that tree and I'm going to watch you just to make sure that you don't eat any muffins. All right, you can go outside now. And the bear went outside to smoke his pipe. Masha made the muffins. Now, what kind of muffins do you think Masha made? You think she made corn muffins? Cranberry muffins? Bran muffins? No. She made blueberry muffins. You're right, you got it. She made blueberry muffins. And oh, they smell so good. She pulled them out of the oven. And then she got her basket and Masha put herself in the basket. It was almost as big as she was. And she put all of those muffins into the basket with her. And she covered them all up with a blue and white cloth. And then she waited for the bear to come inside. And when he did, he didn't see Masha. He thought Masha was already outside up in the tree. And so that bear picked up the basket and he started out towards the village and Masha's mother and father's house. And he walked. You can tap your legs and walk like the bear. Sounds like the bear. He walked and walked without a stop. He walked until he thought he'd drop. Oh, but then he smelled those muffins. I'm going to have just a little bite of a muffin, he said. And Masha inside the basket said, oh, no, I spy and you promised not to eat a single muffin. No, you promised. Oh, the bear said, my, oh my, that girl is sly. From where she sits on up high, she can see everything I do and hear everything I say. He picked up the basket and he kept walking. He walked and walked without a stop. He walked until he thought he'd drop. Then he started smelling those muffins again. Oh, his tummy started rumbling. Oh, he stopped. He saw a tree stump and he said, that tree stump will be my seat and a muffin I will eat. And Masha said, oh no, I spy from where I sit on up high. That tree stump won't be your seat. Not one muffin will you eat. And that bear jumped up. He said, oh my, that girl is sly. From where she sits on up high, she can hear everything I say and see everything I do. Oh, and I promised. So that bear picked up that basket again, continued walking. He walked and walked and walked. He walked until he came to the village where Masha's mother and father lived. And he looked for their house and he found it. He put that basket down in front of their gate. And just when he did that, all of the dogs in the whole village, they smelled not the muffins, no. They smelled the bear. Oh, and they started running toward the bear and barking, woof, 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 woof. Oh, there were all kinds of dogs. There were big dogs and little dogs. There were tall dogs and short dogs. There were fluffy dogs and short-haired dogs. There were brown dogs and white dogs. There were polka-dotted dogs. And they all barked, woof, 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 woof. You can bark with me and scare that bear away. Woof. I'm sure you know a dog that can bark. Bark like that dog. Woof, woof, woof. Woof, 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 woof. Woof, woof, scare that bear away. Woof, woof, woof. And the bear was scared and the bear ran away. Woof, woof, woof. And the bear never came back to that village again. Now, inside the house, Masha's mother and father heard all that noise. And when they came outside, they saw their basket by the gate. And they walked over to the basket, pulled off that blue and white cloth, and when they looked into the basket, they saw Masha looking up. Their little girl was back home, and she was smiling. And that's the story of Masha and the bear. Story from Russia. I hope you like that story just as much as I like to tell it.